Gideon, there's nothing I hate more than arriving for the first time at a local cricket oval and seeing that they've replaced the beautiful natural turf with synthetic grass.
Why is that, Pete? Are you particular about the speed of the outfield?
No, mate. Obviously, I am, but it's worse than that. Synthetic grass releases toxic chemicals and microplastics that enter the atmosphere and our bodies.
That does sound pretty bad, a lot worse than a scraped knee, which you'll probably also get from playing on synthetic grass.
Yep. We're all starting to learn just how prevalent microplastics are in our environment, and getting rid of synthetic grass is just one of the ways you can reduce the harmful effects of microplastics on yours and your family's health.
For more information, check out the free and handy ebook created by Mindaroo at mindaroo.org/ebook.
Cricket et al. It's a website, it's a podcast.
Pete, it's a way of life. It's Gideon Haig over here.
Peter Lawler over here.
And welcome to Cricket et al., your independent cricket podcast, coming to you after another enthralling day of Test cricket at the MCG in this fourth Test match, at which stage Australia comfortably holds the upper hand. But if you'd asked us half an hour earlier where this game was heading, we wouldn't have had a clue, because it's been one of those games, one of those days where it's been a wholehearted arm wrestle in which the ascendancy was unclear until the very, very last moment, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And it's not unusual in these really big contests for things to happen in the last hour, are they? While we're furiously typing our copy with one eye on.
We've already written our story and we have to change it.
So Australia posted 474 runs earlier in the day. Steve Smith made 140 odd, his 34th Test century.
He's 5th at the MCG.
He's 11th against India.
Oh, nice.
I'm just guessing.
Nice.
Looked good. Looked really good, I thought.
Had looked great the night before.
Yeah.
I was pretty confident coming back that he was set to double up. This was a better innings, I thought, than the Brisbane 100. He was even surer. He was actually interesting. There were two kind of approaches to batting by two champions today. We'll get to Virat Kohli's later. I thought Steve Smith was really challenging himself today. Like, he was really pushing at the edges of his ability. There were some shots he played today which I've never seen from him before. Those hook shots above eye level. That slash through covers on the walk off Siraj.
That was a beauty, wasn't it?
Yeah. He looked like he was really just experimenting today and enjoying his batting again.
It was an affirmation of what, or a confirmation of what we'd seen in Brisbane. But was it Brisbane? Yeah. Even he said when he came off before the innings was finished that he surprised himself by getting into his work so early. He usually finds it harder to get into his work, but he had. And when he hit that six off Bromley, I thought, geez. So it was back in 2021 that the last six was hit off Bumrah. It was hit and it was hit by Cameron Green. There is a sense that
I remember it at the Sydney Cricket Ground, wasn't it?
Yeah, that big
360 swing. Yeah.
So there hasn't been a six since that time. But Constance's 2 sixes against him has kind of loosened the jar of the lid, hasn't it, for the old men? So he said, well, if he can do it, I can do it. But a fine innings. And I've written in a piece today, and I think I'd suggest this earlier too, that I thought that Steve Smith was past his best. I thought we would see centuries from him again, but they would be what I call muscle memory centuries. Yes. Those centuries you see in the twilight of a player's career. I remember them from David Warner, a pair of them. I remember a couple of them from Ricky Ponting in his career too. But they weren't able to consistently do it. Yeah. What I liked about that today was that is Steve Smith grooved again. That is Steve Smith. Perhaps not at his imperious best just yet, but back in the game, and the game smiling on him a bit too.
There is a pathos of a batsman towards the end of their career. There is always a limit to the number of times that you can go back to the well, but it was almost like he found a different well today. Yeah. Had very good company. I thought Pat Cummins did a fantastic job of chaperoning him.
That was a century stand there.
Yeah, he was busy and he was effective and he was decisive, and the score kept ticking. They were scoring at a run a ball. Better than a run a ball through that first session. And India looked flat, didn't they? Looked so flat.
It's a considerably cooler day today, but India looked looked like a team who spent too much time in the heat yesterday. They had tired legs, and that takes so much energy out of you. A first day in a Test match when it approaches 40 degrees, you never get that petrol back, I don't think, and it's going to be hard. The Indian bowlers looked ragged this morning. The field didn't look great.
Fielding was terrible. Fielding was absolutely woeful.
Hasn't been great this whole series.
No,
Gideon,
it hasn't.
To be honest with you, there's a few who bring them down. Siraj is one of them, but the outfielding's confused me no end. I don't know why they're getting it wrong. I don't know what's going on in the Indian camp, because the Indian teams that have visited in the last decade have been excellent fielding teams.
They have, yeah.
They once had a reputation as poor fielders, because I think playing in India, you never chased a ball, you never dived for a ball, for good reason, because the ground was too hard. But since the invention of the IPL and the outfields have improved, the Indian fielding is as good as any side's fielding in the world.
It's not a lack of athleticism. These guys are young and they're fit and they're pretty spry, and they're reasonable catchers.
Yeah,
but I reckon it might just be technique. They've struggled with the pace of Australian outfields. The paces of all the grounds this summer have been quite different, and you often see the fielders. It seems they sort of slide into their turns a little bit early, and the balls just seems to roll that little bit beyond them,
or unnecessarily, or they flick back when nobody's behind them.
Well, they did that several times, didn't they? On the first day, we remarked on that.
I wonder if they do have a fielding coach.
I don't know. They seem to have enough support staff.
Yeah, they do.
Someone's got to be responsible for fielding. Anyway, he's not doing his job, whoever he is.
Yeah. But that was a good morning for Australia, wasn't it? Smith getting those runs, Cummins putting more work into the bowler's legs. Cummins interested me when he took that first wicket today. I mean, obviously it was a pretty big first wicket moving into... Let's set the scene.
Yep.
Rohit Sharma comes out to open. What did you make of that?
Well, this is what we had been exhorting him to do, to take up a role where he was... You can't really lead from behind. I've never known a captain, apart from an all-rounder, to lead a team successfully from number 6. Yes, they were breaking up the combination of Rahul and Jaiswal, but you can't go past Rohit Sharma's record as an opening batsman. He's been terrific over the last 3 or 4 years, but... Today, he looked a beat behind, didn't he? I mean, even in the short time that we saw of him out there, he doesn't look as though his feet aren't really moving. He seems very limited, and that shot today was almost a non-shot, wasn't it? It wasn't attack, it wasn't defence, it wasn't wholehearted, it wasn't really manoeuvring the ball into a gap. It could really only go wrong.
It was a shot of someone who's really second-guessing themselves and lost confidence in their game and their stroke play. Because at his best, he's a beautiful striker of the ball. He's an outstanding batter. But that was a terrible shot, an abject shot, really, and continues a very poor run since arriving in this series. He hasn't been able to get the pace of the game since he arrived here. They won when he was away. Well, I mean, he did arrive in time to see them win, but he has not partaken in a win since he got here. So that's 4 losses in a row that he's captained, isn't it?
Yes.
Not great.
What did you make of his... We'll just go back for momentarily. What did you think of his management in the field and his general demeanour?
It's really hard to judge from a distance, isn't it? But I feel like he doesn't... I feel like he hasn't really got control of his troops. I feel like they're not all on board with him. It was telling again that the team address was done by Virat Kohli in the morning. It was Kohli who urged them on. He was interesting in the morning.
Yes, he was.
There was a moment in the morning where he was just alone and standing there for quite some time alone on the MCG. I mean, there were other people, but no one would go near him. And I thought, what's going through his mind after that day yesterday? Yeah. And I was compelled to think about that further as we went on. Yeah. But
I saw him standing at the boundary edge too, as he waited to come on today, and he was just sort of alone in his estate. Jaiswal was not around. You know, he was the Australians were in their huddle. He really had no company at all. He was just standing there, almost like a statue, staring into space.
But getting back to your question, you didn't ask me that question without having an opinion yourself on the way he's marshalling his troops.
Yeah, look, I mean...
It's a heavy sigh, Gideon.
It is a heavy sigh.
Heavy sigh.
Yeah. I mean, look, any captain under those sort of pressures is not going to look like a happy camper. But the way in which he went back to Siraj today. I mean, he was obviously trying to get a wicket into Siraj, but Siraj was absolutely nowhere. Siraj has kind of drifted out of this series. I don't know whether the boos are starting to affect him. Jadeja has picked up a couple of late wickets, but even he was kind of struggling to control the run flow. A bowler who's so accurate. They've got Reddy in as a fifth bowler, but he's not really even a fifth bowler, I don't think, at Test level. Sundar, well, wouldn't have been handy to have Ravi Ashwin, I reckon, in this Test match. I just want to take a second to do a quick PSA for all of our beloved Cricket at Our listeners. We treasure your loyalty, and the last thing we want to see is any cricket fan struck down in bad health. One thing that can increase your risk of developing issues like heart disease is plastic chemicals. It's hard to avoid plastics. They're in just about everything, but we can try to be more conscious about what we're buying, especially when we're giving it to our children.
Yeah, and more needs to be written about Ravi Ashwin and his exit from this series and how that came about. Maybe we'll never really know the truth of it, but watching that team out there yesterday and this morning, you would not think that that's a side who's won all in a live series. You know? They look like a side who are trailing and a side in a series that's got too long for them, that they want to go home. They could rally again. But as I say, I think that first day really took a lot from India. They'll recover a little bit from the
Look, they rallied
today.
this afternoon, and in some ways, you know, we might be playing a different tune had Jaiswal not run himself out with the end in sight.
Lovely innings from him. Once
Beautiful
he gets
innings.
going, unless you got to nip him early, don't you? But he's a beautiful batter.
You do. And Australia got lucky, and they couldn't credit their luck, frankly, when they did.
Yeah.
Let's anatomise that run out, shall we?
So the 22-year-old, he's on about 82. He's nothing's going to stop him getting 100 by the look of it. You know, the Australians have given up. I think they've even bought.
He gets hundreds, doesn't he?
Yeah, and they brought Mitch Marsh on, and when he goes big.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
And he strikes the ball too hard. He strikes it past Virat, who turns his back on him to get back in his crease after initially moving out for the run.
Well, Virat's backing up. Virat's backing up.
Yeah, but he hasn't sent him back, has he?
Well, it'd be pretty hard to send him back because he has bolted. Yeah. He has absolutely bolted.
Look, it's Jaiswal's fault. Yeah. There is no doubt about that in my mind. Jaiswal is to blame for that. But Jaiswal was terribly disappointed when he walked off. And again, I looked at Kohli standing alone out there in the centre, thinking, God, what have I done? I picked that fight on day one. The whole crowd is against me. The kid was going to make 100. It's not my fault, but I'm stuck out here. It didn't strike me as a coincidence that he was out soon after.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, he's a vastly experienced cricketer. He would not have been in that he would have been in that scenario before. And a run out always feels like a terrible self-inflicted wound, doesn't it? It's one that you've donated to the opposition, unless it happens to be a particularly brilliant piece of fielding. This was a pretty ragged piece of fielding actually, because the throw missed the stumps and Carey had to gather it in. Fortunately, there was just the small matter of a pitch length involved, and they're both batters having ended up at the opposite end. Kohli wasn't moving, was he? He was a senior player.
Nor should he.
He shouldn't.
No, he was in his rights to hold his end. But I think he said, oh, God, it just felt like the weight of the world was on his shoulders in that moment, and I'm not sure that he had the strength to bear it.
Because to that point, he had been wonderfully abstemious round off stump, hadn't he? He had set himself to bat for days. I've never seen him let as many balls go. You know, we often talk about that, his vulnerability on that fifth stump line. Today he was absolutely letting everything go. He was letting balls go over the top of the stumps. He let a ball hit him on the back thigh.
But they're not the ones that get him, are they? They're the ones to set him up to get him. But you're right. He didn't go for the bait when they put it out there. They didn't bowl a lot of good fifth stump line balls to him.
They didn't. Cummins overpitched a couple of times. Cummins got beautifully driven through the covers today by Kohli. That was probably the shot of the day.
I noticed Cummins setting him up for the hook, which was interesting. You know, the get out shot. They had two men back quite early, didn't they, for that?
But he hooked down and he pulled that. He played that pull shot today where he didn't go right through the shot. He just glided it around the corner. Lovely shot.
Would have been great to see him make 100.
It would.
Yeah.
It would.
I mean, that would have been a really defiant century by a champion of the game.
Yep.
What do you make of the crowd's reaction to him?
It was bizarre, wasn't it? Because for once we actually have sort of oppositional spectators, don't we? We have a noisy, ebullient, enthusiastic Indian contingent who've made a hell of a lot of noise through the Test match, which has added enormously to the atmospherics of it. And of course, they always rise to the presence of Kohli. They absolutely love him.
Yeah.
They feel defensive and protective of him because of the hostility of the Australian crowd. So when he was coming on today, I've written about it. It was almost like the two armies went into oral battle, didn't they, for control of the airwaves? Who was it boos or was it going to be roars that came out on top?
It's like that Chuck Berry song on the London sessions. What's that called? About swimming across turtle. Oh, what's this? My Ding-a-Ling, where he gets the girls to sing one bit and he gets the boys to sing the other bit, and it's a sing off. Yeah. Who can make the most noise?
But it was simultaneous today, and even in a game of football, the cheers and boos sort of rise and fall and alternate. Today was simultaneous. I've never heard a noise quite like it, and it was maintained all the way to the centre as Kohli came out.
The Indians kind of asserted themselves at one point and rose up above it, but then there was this wave of boos that doused their enthusiasm. It was very entertaining.
It was, and it was a great last session. It was a really good partnership between Kohli and Jaiswal. Very enjoyable to watch. I really enjoyed watching the two of them bat in Perth. Slim, athletic left-hander, and this great sort of natural authority figure. It must be amazing for Jaiswal to bat with Kohli, mustn't it? It must be like batting with the poster on your bedroom wall. But it ended unhappily, and it got worse because Akashdeep was sent in very early as night watchman, wasn't it? 10 overs to go. That was a huge ask, and it hasn't worked out.
No, he proved to be out of his depth.
So they've ended up losing 3 wickets in a cluster towards the end, and they have of course played the extra bowler in this game, so they're just a little bit shorter of batting. So at the close, Pete, India trail by 310 runs.
They do 5 for 164, and they look like they're in a world of trouble. The Australians will refresh overnight.
Yep,
there's still a bit in that wicket. I think it's still seaming.
Yeah.
What about the Pat Cummins ball that got, which wicket was it? Sorry, everyone, brain's tired here. The Rahul dismissal.
That's a Jaffa, wasn't it? That was an absolute Jaffa.
Talk me through that in Gideon Haigh style, please. Can you talk to that wicket, please, Gideon, as they say in modern press conferences?
Rahul, as ever, looked in perfectly serene touch. He never hurried. It's actually been a summer full of kind of signature shots. The Jaiswal slash over the slips, the Steve Smith work off the hip, the Rishabh Pant fall over hook shot that we saw in Adelaide,
the commando
roll.
Yep. And the Constas edition. But I have really enjoyed the Rahul leave this summer.
The one where he just tucks the bat inside the front pad.
Yeah.
He sort of feigns to have a go at it. In England, they used to call it the Kent leave.
The Kent leave.
Yeah. There was
That's K-E-N-T.
Yeah, there was a generation of batsmen from Kent who played that leave inside the front pad, and it used to bug bowlers enormously because it looked like they'd beaten the outside edge, but they could never be quite sure. Anyway, Rahul played really well. Just on the stroke of tee, Cummins found the last possible opportunity, the perfect delivery, just grazing the top of off as he's kind of grooved in defence behind it. I mean, it takes a bit to bust open that defence, so perfect ball on the perfect occasion. And it meant that Kohli came in immediately after tea, so it was just a lip-smacking moment, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's something going on between Stark and Cummins in this.
Yeah, tell me about that. You spotted that today.
There's an additional enthusiasm with which they are celebrating wickets. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, right.
but maybe they've got a little private bet going.
Okay,
Something's going on, but they're loving their work at the moment, and they're loving their success. So,
and we should mention Scott Boland, who once again has
yes.
come in to replace Josh Hazelwood, and he's done the job. My word, he's that little sort of handkerchief size area that he just keeps hitting and hitting and hitting at good pace. Of course, he's the MCG specialist. You'd probably always pick him here. At the age of 35, he's like vintage wine, mate. Vintage wine, getting better with age, just like us, Pete. Yeah. Just like us.
Crowd loves it, don't they? They just added to the excitement. Anyway, you've got to go home.
I do.
Yeah,
I do. Yep.
We don't even have time to drag Virat over the coals one more time over it, or the ICC.
We'll be back. We'll be back. There's plenty more meat on this bone. But thanks. That's all we've got time for on Cricket Natal tonight. Thank you for your company. We'll be back tomorrow evening in Jolimont Park. But in the meantime, from me, it's good night.
And it's good night from him.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for tuning in. And before we go, we'd like to leave you with a bit of advice.
That's right. We know the best bats are made from pure English willow, and the absolute worst bats you could get are made from cheap plastic.
It's not that you'll be scoring fewer runs, but you'll also be absorbing plastic chemicals and sending pesky microplastics into the environment and into our bodies.
Yes, microplastics are everywhere around us, not just flying off dodgy cricket bats. So check out mindaroo.org for a free ebook that'll guide you in living a healthier life with less plastic around you.